Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're live and welcome.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Welcome to our weekly dev stream. It's episode number 14 and welcome.
So we're live.
Yes, should be live.
I have a bit of echo. I'm not sure what the reason is. Is this me or is this you?
We're in headphones, so if you're not, then it's you.
Yeah, okay, then
But
it's
it's
me.
not a big deal. It's fine.
Okay, I'll try to minimize that. Anyway, hello to those who are watching us, and hey to those who are looking at this through YouTube, where we make all the recordings available. Every week we run a stream showing the latest development build. Some weeks it's in English, the other week it's in Russian. When we chat in Russian, we've got our game designer with us, and when we chat in English, we've got our artist with us. So either way, you win. The goal of this stream is to be transparent in our development efforts and to show you where exactly we are so that you can save some time by not asking if the game is shipping next week. It is not. One of the first questions on the list of topics to cover today is the beta happening next week? And the answer is no. At the same time, we started working on the forum, which will fill the niche between Discord, where we can communicate very quickly, and Steam forums, where we can communicate more or less precisely and conveniently. You don't need to log in separately. But our own forum is getting ready for the beta, because we expect a certain number of bug reports and suggestions. And for this, we need to have a forum where anyone can create a thread and drop in some visuals into that thread and have that thread remain open until we fix it. Discord doesn't give that, Steam doesn't give that, so we have to go back to our own forum. So in that sense, we're moving a bit closer to the beta. From the other news, from the other good news, we have an extra member of our team fully online and joining us from the coming Monday. If you followed our quest for hiring a game designer who can also program and code and write events, then you know that we've spent about 3-4 months looking for a person like that. And finally, from Monday, he's in the office. He's already in Vilnius. He landed this morning with all his documents in hand. And he will basically help our game designer move faster by creating tons of events. And this game that has a lot of replayability and huge world, it's all about content. Whether or not it's creatures, it's inventory items, it's biomes, and hundreds and hundreds of different events and the reactions of different characters to different events. So let me hand it over to Andrew, and maybe he has some updates about the interface. What happened this week?
Okay, let's talk about the overall updates that are available in our inside build. So we've revamped our global map and finalized the 2 biomes. It's swamps and it's hills. So let's reveal the area of swamps. Here is a final assets that will be used for a swamp. Maybe we'll add some visual effects like fog or waves, ripples on the water, but the graphics itself are more or less final. Rita finished them a couple of days ago, so it's already available in our internal builds. And for hills,
Can you give us an idea, like how long did it take?
Finalization is quite fast process, but the research is a main bottleneck, because we are trying different approach, different color, different ways how to fill the area with some details, so it's not cluttered but readable, and keeps similarity with illustration of biomes that we are using in the quest reports and Wikipedia and other places in the game, so players can clearly connect these two. So the global map, you clearly see these hills, and you know that it's biome named hills, not anything else. So you won't be confused what's going on the map. So it's a main challenge to find this simplicity and keep the map interesting and alive. So it looks not like generated content, but more or less like created by humans placing it on the map.
A question from chat for you, Andrew. So how do you generate the map? Is it tiled, or is it a mix of different resources and assets?
It's an interesting question, because the base itself is tiny tiles, square tiles. So all the movement is tile based, but they're super small, and graphics that are generated on top, they are created by a mixing of tiled approach and just filling the areas with predefined smaller assets. For example, the hills area created by placing a lots of small objects in random combinations to create this natural feel to the areas. So they are not placed in a strict grid, so there is no alignment, or there is no snapping to the points like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're overlapping, and sometimes there is open space without any details. So it's I think it's interesting approach to how we are filling these empty areas without obvious visible grid on a map, so players won't be noticing the grid so much, or at least we're hoping they won't.
The final touch is really the effects like the fog, or the clouds, or the rains, or the ripples on the water. So things that you add at the very last moment that feels all that.
Yeah, definitely there is a final polishing step for a whole map that will improve the visuals one step further, that's for sure. So we'll try to add some more animations and shader effects to make it more live.
Okay, another question from the chat. How many people work on the game right now? I actually had this as one of the talking points for today's stream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are 8 people right now. That's twice as much as we had when we worked on our previous game, Gremlins Inc. In terms of who that is, the easiest way to start would be our backend tool programmer. So his exposure is strictly with the editors and server part for the upcoming Iron Man mode and so on. But he's not really doing anything outside of the tools. He's doing all the tools that we then use. Then we have our game designer. Then we have our concept artist, Rita. Then we have Monica, who's animating, also coordinating all localizations, creating icons, in-game visuals, parts of stuff for a user interface. Then we have Andre, who's basically interface as well as programming and taking care of the build. Who's doing pretty much anything else. Sergey, who's our community manager, and he's also helping with game design. So, for example, he wrote all the books that currently exist in Ruined, a couple hundred. Was responsible for and who just joined, and he's half programmer, half coder, so he's going to generate events, and as such, he needs to know how to program, but he also needs to know how to design. So I think that makes 8. I think so.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, so you and Alex is the game designer, and then 2 people doing art and animations, and then our backend tool, then me, then Nikita, and then Sergey. Yeah. There are some people outside that we work with. For example, all the sound effects and music are done by Anna. We work with a couple of people who color that we create. Writer who's getting he's based in Madrid. And then, of course, we have the translators who help us with different languages. But that's pretty much it. So I would say 8 people. That's small enough so that we don't really need a lot of documentation. We can just talk to each other. But that's already big enough so we can produce a lot of content at the same time. And, you do your thing, and then at the end of the day you check for updates on the game, and then you see, oh, okay, there's a new inventory item, there's a new description of a creature. Someone had a discussion about colorization of a different creature. So stuff is happening, and that makes me confident that we're going to build the required size of content.
Talking about the content, so maybe let's switch and show our progress on the creatures, items, and overall what our art department made through these 2 weeks. Let's go and see what we're working on right now. Let's switch to a real-time board. Currently, we are working on a new creature for waterfronts, for lakes and rivers. It's an underwater creature, Lake Snarer, and I think Rita, our artist, will talk about the process of research and how it's been made. So welcome our guest, Rita.
Hello. It's Rita that is going to talk about Lake Snarer. Yes. So for this creature, I was looking at different kinds of mollusks that had 2 shells. And another thing for this creature was that it looks like a flower. So, and it's also dangerous. That can sort of bite your hand off if you get too close. And don't be fooled by its size. It's pretty gigantic. It's, how big is it? 50 centimeters to 1 meter in diameter. So it's pretty huge, yeah. And the thing is with these creatures, when you're designing them, unless you have like a tiny human put next to the concept, it's really difficult to imagine like the enormity of the size of this creature. Oh, there's a tiny person floating actually on top of number 3. So there you go. It's a pretty ginormous creature. So yes. So as I start out, I usually start gathering references, looking at pictures of what I can use, drawing up some sketches.
I think the high point of you collecting references is when you were building. What is the name of the creature that was eating dead bodies?
Giggler.
The Giggler, and
Yes.
and someone walking through the office just sees this girl sitting next to a couple of monitors full of gore and blood and dead.
That's part of my job. At the previous job when I worked, my colleague had like very cute things, puppies on his second screen, and I had dead bodies and gore. So yeah, that's just part of the process. But for this creature, there was no gore. There were flowers and mollusks. Everything was nice. I was experimenting with different kinds of flowers and different kinds of shapes and trying to make it dangerous but also beautiful in a way because it has to attract your attention. When it comes to feedback, we still need to sort of internally get together and decide what kind of way we're gonna head to, because we have some conflicting opinions, so we'll try to figure this out next.
Yeah, so basically that's it for Lake Snarer, and we can sum up what we've finished in inventory items section. So
what about Swamp Beast? What about coloring Swamp Beast? Because we saw the concept art before.
Let's go to the Swamp Beast, sure. Let's go through the process, and we'll start from the first iterations.
That's one of the things that I'm really happy about in terms of how fast the development is moving, is that last week we spoke about the concept art, and then as I was writing the blog and doing different things, I did not take part in discussions about the coloring stages. And then boom, today I see in the blog the final version of the creature. So can you walk us through why exactly you made that choice in terms of coloring?
I think me and Rita will explain some things why we made some decisions. So in general, we wanted to go in the direction, so the creature is looks like stump, so it should be more or less wood colored and should blend in with the biome itself, so it blends nicely and suddenly it attacks. um, so most of the color variations were different shades of wood, some colder, some warmer, and the important thing also was that the tentacle is the most like dynamic thing in this creature, so it's should be clearly visible that it's something different than just roots going into the water. So we wanted to highlight them, so we added this additional color to their inner part. And there was a couple ideas of highlighting the top of the creature, its crown, because it has this interesting intertwine of different elements on top, and we wanted to add even more details or interesting things to it, so we researched the idea of glowing of insides, so it will attract curious creatures and humans to look what's going on inside. Or some small glowing dots like fireflies or something like this, something magical and interesting. So there was a couple of options with this direction.
Yeah, so like Andrei said, we pretty much, when it comes to other creatures, there was a lot more variety in the color directions we could go, right? Because you have no idea how this creature can be colored. But with this creature, he needs to blend in with the environment. He needs to look like a stump, so we can't go too wild with the colors. And at the same time, we had this idea that when it opens up, the insides are like tree sap, you know, so we kind of knew the color of that as well. So all the variations are more like variations of a shade or type of a glow, instead of having like very, very different hues, for example, for this creature. And since our environment is pretty full of glowing things, that's why we thought that maybe an element of glow is also gonna fit it as well. So as we're going forward with the production, we realized that, for example, as we sort of, at the very beginning, as we got the idea of our hues, we started putting more work into finalizing the piece, into making it more moody, per se. Like you have a color and you have to sort of desaturate some bits, you have to make sure that the creature blends in with the water. Like we talked to our animator, Monica, and she said that we can't have the water having too many details in it, too many color differences in it, so we made it more flat. And the water is a thing that may change, maybe we'll add more details after the animation is done. This is a thing that we have to look at in advance. So we're moving forward, and we've decided to add a bit of lights at the end of the tentacles as well. And as final pieces to the creature, we even changed the line art a little bit. We added more lines at the back of the legs, for example, to make them darker, so that the basic idea is that the center of the creature should stand out more and everything else is sort of goes to the back. So you're looking at...
In terms of functionality, just want to highlight that this is a monster. So this is not an animal. This is a monster that controls a certain territory, lives alone, and occasionally drowners, a non-human race, would start to worship that monster and bring valuable items as offerings. So if you manage to attack and destroy this monster, then you could take the loot, and the loot could be quite valuable. So that also plays into how that monster looks, and the fact that this monster looks like it may be sitting on top of certain artifacts or rare items.
So it's a dangerous loot box. If you want the prize, you need to defeat it.
Well, I wouldn't call it
Or
loot
basi-
box because I think that the risks that you take to defeat this monster is quite considerable, and the efforts are also quite big. Generally,
Did Alexei mention that we'll be able to grow it in the spire or something to protect the spire at some point?
eventually at the high level, when you're able to populate the spire, then yeah, including the pale ones and the swamp beast and so on. Yeah. But that'll take some super high level magic. So I think most of the people will encounter this monster and they will probably, or the disciples, they will probably try to stay away or walk around. Because if that monster is hungry, then it's not good.
So some more details I think can be found in our today's dev blog, right? About the swamps and creatures who live there and where you can find
pretty
this
much the whole
beast.
definition of swamp is there, and swamp is a dangerous place. It's because of the number of events that may happen in the swamp when your party crosses the swamp, and because it's such a slow biome to go across, and because of all the diseases that you can catch, and because of all the animals that may bite you and attack you. I don't think anyone wants to go into the swamp unless you really need certain resources, and then you send the party. Or you're trying to cut through the forest and there's no way around a swamp.
Yep, sounds right. So let's move on to the next items.
Inventory, yep.
Yeah, we have some bunch of different items to show, work in progress and finished as well. So Rita.
So I think we already talked about hemlock. I don't remember. If we didn't, there you go. There's hemlock. So this week I started working on burnet. It is a sort of plant. So I didn't work on inventory items for a while. We usually had a freelancer who worked on inventory items, and now we have our artist Monica is also helping out, and I've also kind of joined the group and started working on them as well. So here's Burnett. Here are 3 sketches, the first 3 sketches, which are quite messy. They're only here to understand what kind of form, what kind of composition we want in the plant, and the one below, number 4, shows some small edits that I've made, and there's some description of more edits that I have to make. This item is uncommon, so it's not super rare, but it's not super common as well. The next item is the earth leech's saliva. So these items are interesting because the creature items are interesting in a way because we have to show a creature and the item on the same picture, and we have only a really tiny picture. So in this case, as you can see at the top, we have like stinktail poison, which has like a stinktail and the little bottle. And we have creeper saliva, which shows it the same way, and death essence as well.
So basically we're trying to show some reference to the creature that holds this ingredient, so you can always connect these two. Even if you don't see the full creature, at least you have some clues about from who you can gather these ingredients, from Drowner or from Leashes or from Weaver and so on and so on.
And this is pretty wide range. I mean, on one hand, you have all the usual items, flowers and plants and fruits and meat and fish. So nothing that tells you that this is a dark fantasy. And then you start seeing all those bits and pieces of fantastic creatures, and you realize, okay, you're in the game with alchemy and magic and non-human races and different things.
Yeah, I think that's much more interesting part of a games than just flowers that can be found in the real world, but these unique creatures and unique objects and flowers and plants that are really unusual for people, and they can explore and find something new and interesting for them.
So the next item is Amber. So it is an item from our world, and it's a finished item, the version number 2. We've decided to add a little bug inside of Amber because I think it's like a staple of Amber having a little bug inside. So there we go. It's part of our minerals, and we have quite a few done already. And the next batch, we have gourmet meat, we have gourmet fish, and we have lake nettles. So lake nettles is also a fictional plant of our world that we can find in lakes, and that is quite poisonous. Like it can burn you. Yeah, it stings. It can sting and burn you. And in our world, we have regular fish and regular meat, and these are the rarer, more expensive versions.
So yeah, with these 2 gourmet objects, we also have a gourmet, what is it, weird avocado that we're working on.
Yeah.
It's not ready yet, but
Exotic
basically,
fruit.
exotic fruit. That's right. We've decided to extend the variety of cooking ingredients for your entertainment and for
What's the
variety of
difference?
recipes.
What is the difference in practical matters between, let's say, regular fish and the gourmet fish? Gourmet fish allows you to cook something special.
Gourmet fish will be used in the recipes that require higher level food. It'll contain this specific property. I forgot the name. Exotic food, I think, property name. So everything
yep.
that is gourmet is exotic and will be required for cooking higher level ratios that will increase your mood or give you more of calories, I don't know.
Stamina, maybe.
Yeah, so basically it's level 2 of a basic objects that can help you to cook higher tier recipes. And for items, I think that's it for this week. We'll see what will be on the next week, but for now, that's it. What we can show else? We already shown snare items, and I think
I think a couple of talking points that I have left on my side is just to reaffirm our commitment to modding and the fact that the game will be moddable when we ship it in early access. We have created a visual editor that we use ourselves to create different events. And what we see as one of the 3 crucial things about this game is for people to be able to mod it from day one. That means new events, that means changing certain parameters of events in the game. Basically, that means trying different things out that we haven't tried on our own. And then if there will be a success, then fine, let's pursue this. And if there will be groups of people working on a certain mod, we're happy to support them. And maybe that mod will result in a DLC. Maybe that mod will result in some community pack or something. But definitely, this is one of the key things for us, that the editing tools and the modding tools should be there and should be available as soon as possible. And the other thing is, there were a couple of questions recently about multiplayer mode. So this game is single player by concept. However, it has a competitive mode called Iron Man. It will have a global ladder. So you will be able to play connected to the server, which ensures that you play on the hard level, on hard difficulty level, and it's cheat free. And you will be able to see how good you are compared to other players around the world. We do have a number of ideas of taking that further, creating a certain connection between one player and the other through, let's say, Cloud of Ruined. We are not there yet. We will do this at the later stage, I would say closer to the end of early access. But since our first game, the one that we currently operate, is a multiplayer game, server-based, we will not have any problems, or we do not expect to have any problems creating an ecosystem that will be relying on the server.
Yeah, we
So
already
yes,
have
this is
some experience with our previous game Gremlins, and it's quite stable. And we're keeping the 2 servers of the game alive for quite a long time, and everything looks good. So I think we're more or less know what we're doing with the server side of the game. And to get back to the modding side, I wanted to add that modding is our one of top priorities in our current development stage, but at the same time it's one of the biggest pains of a development, because we are trying to allow the widest range of modifications possible from our side, so players can go super deep and change a lot of stuff in the game. And this leads to a lot of questions and issues, how to solve this, how to make it possible, and it creates this bottleneck, because we have a limited amount of people to work on this, and it also delays the release, I think, to the closed beta. But we are almost there. We are testing our report system right now, and I think in the next couple of weeks we'll finally show you the progress. And the main delay with this was caused by modding, because we want to add as much as we can. So yeah, that's it.
cool. Anything else? I don't really know. The updates of the global map, doing new creatures, doing new items. I think the next week's stream, we'll try to get our new member Nikita on board and talk about events and talk about the, some of the first events that he's working on, so he can give an inside look on the event system. And then the next week, when we'll speak in English, he's pretty fluent in English, so maybe he will join us. So it'll be 2 weeks from now, to talk about events and talk about his experience. And
Yeah,
talk
sounds
about how
good.
the game
It would be really
is
nice to talk not only about the content and graphics, but also dive into the logic and how everything works. Maybe show something from the editor or something like this, so people know how it works and what we're working right now on the logic side.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for watching. You can watch some other streams if you want to see how much progress we've made on the YouTube channel.
Previous 13 episodes, yep.
And as always, we share work in progress on Discord server. So if you're into seeing how sketches turn into final work, then go and check out Discord. At least that's what we do. We don't really do any editing there. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you for watching. See you next time, and bye bye.